Hi. Okay, so tonight we're going to get started with our Tower Garden Zoom. I'm going to share my Tower Garden story, as well as some information, assuming that you know nothing about the Tower Garden. So we're going to go through the basics. And then from there, we're going to go through the benefits of the Tower Garden. I'm going to have two people share their stories. One is a journeyman chef and a busy dad, and another one is a busy mom and teacher. They're going to share the value of the Tower Garden, as well as how to go about getting them into a school, if that's something that interests you, or other community ventures that you've thought about. I should warn you that you're probably going to want to go ahead and order one. It's probably during the Zoom. If you can wait at least until afterwards, that would be great. And lastly, if we have time, we will go to a few questions. So I'm going to get started here with my Tower Garden story. So this is my Tower Garden Facebook album. If you've already got a Tower Garden, I would highly recommend starting an album on Facebook, just going to your photos and albums. It's a great way when people ask questions and such for you just to refer them to your Tower Garden album so they can see your journey. So as I mentioned, my name is Kareen, for those of you just tuning in. And to be honest, I got started with the Tower Garden about a year ago. Really just out of, I was intrigued at the idea of an indoor garden. However, I honestly, having no green thumb, thought it was going to be ridiculous and hard. And so I knew I couldn't genuinely share about the Tower Garden if I didn't have my own. So here's my Tower Garden. I even prolonged putting it together because I thought, oh my goodness, like it's going to take forever. And honestly, it took one nap of my little guy, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm also the type of person who doesn't like following instructions, so it might have taken me longer as I attempted it and then referred back to the instruction manual. But I got started on the Tower Garden, again, just to kind of test it out, and also because I have a little guy. And my son, who's now 3 years old, but was 2-year-old at the time, he was sort of your traditional picky eater, but I think that's just part of being a toddler. And I had heard at a Juice Plus event that I had gone to that this woman was talking about her grandchildren and saying it's no wonder kids don't like to eat the fruits and vegetables from the grocery store because they don't taste good. And that really intrigued me because I thought, you know, here's my little guy. He doesn't mind eating fruits and vegetables. You know, he definitely has his favorites. But the thought of him being able to participate in watching fruits and vegetables grow from seed and then being able to pick them and eat them directly off the tower without even having to wash them. You know, I love that idea of gardening year-round, but without the work involved. And so I did get started, and we quickly realized that it was super easy because it does self-water. And I'll go into the details in a little bit, but I was very fascinated at all of these cool fruits and veggies, you know, that were growing indoors. And like I said, because it watered itself, I mean, the thing just went bananas. And my mom will attest that I usually kill absolutely everything that she brings into the house for me to keep as a plant because I forget to water it. So it's on a little timer. So there's my Tower Garden. And we've had it for a year now. Once we got the grow lights, definitely accelerated the growth, but it was just, like I said, super exciting that we could grow fruits and vegetables year round, and I felt confident sharing it because of the success that we had. So tonight, we're going to get started by looking at what is the Tower Garden. So by a show of hands, how many of you have checked out your newly updated Tower Garden websites? Okay, so I did, and mostly just because of tonight, I wanted to familiarize myself with it, but it is super user-friendly, and I'm really impressed. So first things first, when you go onto your Tower Garden website, which you can get directly from your Juice Plus website, and you scroll down, We're not going to go to the Buy Your Tower Garden now, but right away you can see some of the information that you'd be wanting to share with a prospect or a customer. You know, growing 30% more food 3 times faster, that's just awesome. And the first thing that I like to share with a prospect or a customer is just how the aeroponics work in the tower garden. And this video, if you've not already seen it, I'm just going to show you really quickly what it looks like. Is, hold on here. Here it is, just loading. Less than 2 minutes long. It's a really short, just YouTube video. And if you haven't seen it, check it out, but it just goes through the basics. What is a tower garden?
Tower Garden's state-of-the-art aeroponic vertical garden system.
Okay, so I would highly recommend that as your first tool, directing people to your website or showing them the video if you're in person, unless you actually have a tower garden that you can show them, which is even better. So that video is available right on that first homepage when you go on your website. And the next thing I wanted to show you was, so that goes to show you how the tower garden works. And then if you scroll down, there's tons of other information. So 90% less water and space, 10% of the land. I mean, stats that are just incredible. And then if you scroll all the way down, here's some social media pictures that have been shared. And here's some great tools you have. So we're going to go to the frequently asked questions next, because this is what people are going to be asking you or that you might want to know. And again, this is an updated from our website here that is an awesome tool. This is not what it looked like before. So what is the aeroponics? Is it organic? What's it made out of? So this is going to answer all of your questions. Where can I grow? Is it good for schools? What can I grow? And so on and so on. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the Tower Talk. So by a show of hands, how many have registered for their Tower Talk website? If you haven't already, it's super easy. You can click right on the Tower Talk link. Now I have registered, but I didn't even need to log in order to use the website. So I was referring to the Tower Talk website actually today because one of my girls on my team was asking me what the cost is of running a tower garden. So all I did was on the Tower Talk, I went to the little search button. I typed in cost, I believe. And what Tower Talk is it's just people like you and me, as well as our customers who are asking questions, and it's just a database of resource for them to refer to. And it was the first link here, how much does it cost to run the tower garden, where I was able to get the answer to that question. So they talk about the actual pump and the timer, which takes pennies a day to run. And then the grow lights, the bulbs, and again, it says at an average cost of $10.89 for 30 days. Now that was a US cost, but that's giving somebody an average for them to see that it's not going to be a huge cost to them to be running this awesome tool that they can have to grow their own fruits and veggies year round. The next thing I wanted to share with you when I'm looking for information about the tower garden is oftentimes I'll just go right onto Facebook. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top here. Now keep in mind that like anything on the internet, anybody can post, okay? But I just find this an invaluable resource because everybody's posting stuff. So I might go tower garden, and I know when I was sharing with the different schools in town where I live, I wanted specific information if I was talking to somebody, a teacher at a high school versus an elementary teacher. So let's say Tower Garden High School, and I'm going to get all of the stuff that's posted that's actually spelled right about Tower Gardens in high school, so I can be specific when I'm sharing. So there was a post, let's see here, that I had made, and this was probably a post that I found by doing the same thing here. And if I scroll down, I can see lots of different information. I would highly recommend previewing any videos that you decide to share with people just to make sure they're what you're looking for. But this is just another invaluable resource for sharing. So obviously some of these aren't even high schools. I did notice our Morinville Sobeys actually sells produce that the high school in town apparently is using in their tower garden. And you'll see lots of different stuff. So if I like something, I can share directly from here. Anything that's posted online, let's be honest, it's available for us to use. These aren't testimonials, so we don't have to worry about referring to that person's personal page. We can go ahead and just share it because it's just people sharing information. Okay? So that's a tool that I found invaluable, as well as just YouTube. So today, I had YouTube just Tower Garden, and I came across a ton of videos. One of them was the Tower Garden assembly. So maybe you're a visual learner. Maybe, you got the CD-ROM, and, I don't even have a CD-ROM player on my laptop. So to me, that would be useless. So you could just watch a Tower Garden video from YouTube on how to set it up and go through step by step. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about here was the benefits of the Tower Garden. So let's go back to our Tower Garden website. That's not the one I want. Give me 2 seconds here, guys. Okay. So one of the questions that I frequently get is the Tower Garden actually going to save me money? Because it might seem like a big cost right from the get-go. So the first thing I thought I would share with you here is the cost of a Tower Garden. If you haven't already done so, I would highly recommend that you know offhand what the cost is of a Tower Garden when somebody asks you. So how you would do that, you could just click the Buy Your Tower Garden Now or go to Shop. The basic Tower Garden growing system comes with everything you see here. So obviously you need one of those unless you're buying the family Tower Garden, which has 3. The next thing that you're going to need if you're going indoors, which most of us are the grow lights. I had my Tower Garden indoors for about 8 months without grow lights, and I would tell you that I hardly had any produce that I could eat off of it. It grew, but at such a slow rate, and it wasn't producing a lot. So I'd highly recommend the grow lights. Whether you're growing indoors or outdoors, you definitely need the cage. That's going to support your grow lights, as well as almost every plant that exceeds that teeny tiny little space that's available. So it's just going to support your plants. I also went cheap and didn't buy the wheels, the dolly, when I first had my Tower Garden, and I can tell you it was good exercise refilling it or anytime I needed to move it. So highly recommend buying a dolly. I know you can buy them elsewhere, but when you buy 3 or more accessories, you also save on shipping. Now, those are the only 3 things that you absolutely need if you're growing indoors. So I'm going to go to the checkout because that's sort of the basic system that your customer is going to be purchasing. And then I'm going to choose the province. And once I do that, it's going to calculate the shipping and the taxes. So in my head, I know that the cost of a Tower Garden indoors in Alberta is going to cost me or my customer just over $100 a month or just over $1,200 to pay in full. I'm going to highly encourage you, if you don't have a Tower Garden, to get one, because it's really hard to try and explain the value of a Tower Garden to somebody. And then when they ask you if you have one, we all have our reasons. I'm just saying it is the most cost-effective way to garden and to know where your food's coming from. So that's the cost of the Tower Garden. Now I'm going to show you what kind of money you're looking at saving when you do purchase a Tower Garden. So at the bottom of your website, there is a link for the benefits of the Tower Garden. So right here, and this is where I found an awesome graph, little chart showing how much money I could save. And this is actually an outdated chart. So there's some research there that again is just invaluable to share with people. And if I scroll down, we've got the expensive purchase in just 6 months. So that's sort of in the middle there. And this is from 2014. So already 2 years old. Now you purchase the Tower Garden outright or you pay for a year. The only thing you're going to need to, the only cost of maintaining your Tower Garden is going to be the tonic, which they average lasts around 6 to 9 months. I would say that's for going outdoors where the sun is just beating down on your Tower Garden. Mine's lasted me over a year already. So the tonic is something that, you know, let's say once a year, and then the rock wool you can't reuse. So that's something that, you know, might be a cost to you, but otherwise there aren't a lot of upkeep. So here's an awesome chart showing you how much money you or your customers could save. So they break down the fruit and veggies there, and they're showing you just in 6 months, you could already be making money off your Tower Garden. And again, just by a show of hands, how many of you can honestly say in the amount of time that you've had a Tower Garden that you're already, you know, making money? You're above and beyond. Okay, and those of you maybe that just got started, you're not maybe noticing a huge benefit. But I find if you're planting what your family's consuming and growing instead of just the exciting, you know, try and plant one of everything, you'll definitely notice cost savings quite quickly. Okay, let me just see. Now, the next thing I wanted to do was ask Jason. So I'm going to stop my screen share here. So Jason Monraj is one of the awesome guys on our team. And he is, as I mentioned before, a journeyman chef, as well as a busy dad. And you can see his Tower Garden in the back there. And he's going to share with us why his family spent the money to invest in a Tower Garden and what kind of value he's already noticed. They've had theirs now, I believe, for a few months, and why each and every one of you should get one. So Jason, would you be so kind as to share a little bit for us, please?
Hey, this is my first time doing this, so bear with me here.
Yay, thanks.
Everybody can hear me fine? Yeah? Okay. So the reasons why, I guess, why we purchased this is basically my wife's idea. She kind of pushed it on me because I was a little hesitant at the start, because it was the price that really got me, that I was a little hesitant at the start. But once we got it, and it was pretty quick to install and get everything set up, and I realized how low maintenance it was. Like, you just have to check it once a week, and you know, and it's easier to put in the chemicals, and yeah, it's a pretty easy process. We did it because you get the organic vegetables. You know what's they're not sprayed with anything. There's no insecticides on there. It's very cost effective eventually once you pay it down. I mean, I have basil growing on here, if you can see at the top. I've gone through it probably 10 times now, and if you use those organic vegetables, if you get their organic packs from Sobeys, they're around $3. So if you think about it, I've cleaned these off about 10 times already since January. I started in January, so you factor that in, you're probably looking around $50 just in the basil. So, and the kids absolutely love it. Every day they wake up in the morning, they run over and they see the new, you know, a new leaf come up or anything like that, and it's pretty fun to see that they're getting involved with it. What else is there? And the fact that it only takes like 1/10 the water that normal gardens do, that's huge, because especially with the water shortage and everything that's going on right now. grows in half the time. We put green, like heads of green lettuce or green leaf lettuce in there, and it's like you clear it and 2 days later you got more lettuce. It's very quickly it comes back. So other than that, I love cooking. I love the fact that I can, you know, get all my vegetables ready in the kitchen, then walk over and pick a few things like my dill or my basil, or, you know, I have eggplants coming in. It's a trial and error process. I mean, obviously I'm not going to get it right the first time. And I mean, everybody can't expect that to happen, but I do have, you know, we tried the tomato plants. We realized you can't put too many in there. I think we started out with 4 right off the bat, and it kind of took over. It looked like a wild jungle for a little while, but we took care of it. Now we have 1. We have eggplant growing right now. I got my pride and joy is my Thai dragon peppers coming up there. So I like hot food. So the fact that I can grow my own hot peppers on this thing is pretty fascinating. It's fascinating to me. I mean, and then like it's kind of like scary when you see the total price on it, but then you think about how much money you're going to save in the long run. That's just an upfront cost. And then after the fact, you're paying what, $48 every 6 to 9 months just for the tonic. And that's pretty much it. You just got to check it once a week, fill it, check the pH levels. And that's pretty much all you got to do. Everything else is on the timer. It's very easy, very user friendly. People that don't have green thumbs don't have to worry about it. You just have to ask my wife. She just definitely does not have a green thumb. So it's very easy for people to take care of. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have, but I absolutely love it, and anybody should get one of these things. They're just incredible. So, and that is all.
Thanks, Jason. And I, like his wife, I'm the most lazy gardener. My husband's even phoned me when I've been away before. I'm like, this thing's making noises because I've let it just like almost run dry, and you can hear the pump just like, "Rrr." And you know, honestly, I haven't killed anything yet, so it's pretty impressive. And like Jason said, you know, it might be a trial and error. So things that grow really big, like tomatoes, you know, you kind of play around. You just need a few of them. The Tower Talk is an awesome resource for anybody to go to get your questions answered, as well as just asking each other. And what else did I want to talk about? Jen has been so kind. She's going to share with us. So Jen, last April, I believe it was around this time, maybe June, as a busy teacher, last year she was teaching elementary school, she really wanted to get the Tower Gardens into her schools. And to be honest, I wasn't even helpful. She did it all by herself. So I know a lot of people have been asking, you know, what the process is like to go about getting a grant. And, you know, really showing the value to a teacher, if you're not one, or to the administrators or the school staff, because, you know, having one in your home is one thing, which is just awesome, but we know that there's food crisis, there's a health crisis. So to be able to have children, especially, learning about food in the school, I think that's just incredible. So Jennifer is going to hopefully answer some of your questions you have about getting started into school.
Hi, everyone. So before I even got a Tower Garden in my own house, I was seeing Koreans and I just absolutely loved it. I really love gardening for the fact alone that you get freshly grown produce from it, but I'm not a big fan of being outside in the heat. I don't really like watering over the dry days, which seems to be Alberta summers nowadays, or even weeding. I don't like any of that. So the Tower Garden just seemed like a perfect fit. So before I even got one in my own house, I knew there was like endless benefits to having one in the school. I kind of did a little survey with my kids that I'm teaching junior high with now this year, asking them how many of the students have ever grown a garden. And I work in a school that's in town, and I think I had 3 hands up. So it's kind of scary that, you know, our kids are not getting that hands-on learning from a garden, or having, you know, the full nutrition from vegetables. And of course, they're not excited about eating vegetables because all they've tasted is stuff in the store, which if you've tasted garden produce, the stuff in the store does not taste even close to that. As far as convincing admin, I would say that I can't really help you guys out with that. Being a teacher on the staff, it was so much easier to talk to my principal because we had a relationship already. And when Kareen had asked me that question, I was kind of looking at my emails, and I think all I did was send my principal an email saying, I really love these Tower Gardens. This is what they are. And I'm going to apply on a grant. Would you support that? And he was like, absolutely. And that was that. So then I just started the grant process. My experience within the school system as a teacher is it's all about who you know. It's going to be so much easier if you've already built a relationship with somebody in the inside. Secondly, school systems have limited funds, and I'm not an admin, so I don't know if there actually is a secret stash of money that is available. But my experience is that if you're truly passionate about getting the Tower Gardens into a school, you're going to have to find a means to get those funds for the school, because other than Chris, I guess, just talking today saying that the school was able to pay for it. My experience is that the school systems don't have a lot of money. And teachers work, like as a teacher, I will say that we work a ton and we put in a lot of time into so many things that I would say that it'd be hard pressed to find an administrator or teachers that are willing to put in the time for a grant. I obviously did because I saw the vision and I was really passionate about it. So I was willing to put in that extra time to make it worthwhile for the kids. And there's many ways to make those funds happen. For me, I chose to apply on a grant, and that grant was TD Friends of the Environment Foundation. I'll be honest, with the perspective of a teacher, so understanding the curriculum that is taught, and that curriculum is available online, so anybody could Google Alberta, science curriculum or health curriculum, and being able to look at that. I kind of already had this perspective of understanding how the curriculum worked, so that definitely helped. I knew the value of the Tower Garden, even though I didn't have one in my own house, because I didn't get one in my house until August, and I applied on this grant in June. And be willing to put in a lot of time. The grant process required a huge time commitment. There's word limits on the questions, so you want to be able to find the most convincing words. You have to be willing to put in some sort of commitment in there, what you're going to do to bring value back to that grant so that other people are going to want to apply on that grant. So what you're willing to do. And so if you're going to be the one that's going to be putting in that value, or teaming up with teachers that are willing to put in that value for the Tower Gardens. So basically I would say that like, don't be discouraged, but it is a lot of time commitment. And I would say it definitely helped that I was in the school system. So if you're not a teacher, just reach out to someone who is a teacher that understands that kind of stuff. And who's going to be overseeing the Tower Gardens over the time, because they are very low maintenance, but you also want to be checking in on them so that they are producing and showing value to the kids. Yeah, so my advice, I'll just kind of sum it up. My advice is share your passion or explain the Tower Garden concept to someone that you have a connection with inside the school. Do some research how you are willing to raise the funds, understanding the time it's going to take to research and properly word your responses. And then, be willing to take that time that you're, providing over and above customer care, because teachers are busy. And unless someone is willing to be that person, that you're going to have to be that person to go back and check in on them so that they are, showing that investment for the school.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen.
That's what I got.
And I was actually really nervous about when you had started the grant process, because I thought, I have no idea how to go about doing that, even though I worked in school at the time. I'd never even heard of Tower Garden. So I appreciate that you did that on your own time. I know it was a big process.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
And you don't know if you're going to be successful either. You can put all that time and effort into it, and then nothing comes from it. So being aware of that as well.
Right. I know there are a few people on tonight, so by a show of hands, how many of you have had success sharing a tower garden and getting them into a school? I know Jordan and Chris. I'm not sure if there was anybody else on tonight, but quite a few have. I'm seeing it seems to be becoming more and more popular. It's surprising. There are schools that do have money available, and like Jen said, they definitely have limited funds. I know as a teacher that was the same thing. I had a principal approach me. She had been watching, and they had worked at a casino. They were already really interested in school gardens, and they had some for outdoors during the summer, and so she had come to me. I was nervous when she asked me to come in and share because I didn't realize they already had the money available, but they did. So they just bought it outright, and I went in there and set it up. But again, it's that customer care because we've got it set up now, but we still haven't done the seeds or anything like that. And so really making sure that they do see that value is important. The grant process can be lengthy, like Jen said. Lots of people are here to help you, but just knowing that, yeah, you do have to have that connection, whether it be going into the school and sharing. I find, because people are busy, even just an email. And you can find out who the administrator is of a school, your local school, if you don't have a connection, just by Googling it. And then, like Jen said, just sharing, really basic, like anytime you're sharing with a prospect, asking their permission. But I find, just sharing that, in our case, we have quite a few schools now in the community, thanks to Jen, the outreach schools as well. 2 of them have a tower garden. And then I'm told the high school has one. I'm not sure who was able to get one in. I'm going to go tomorrow and help because the teacher I contacted regarding getting one in said they haven't had any success with it. So I said I would help with that customer care there. But just sending an email and just saying, this is something I'm really passionate about. If you have one in your house, maybe just sharing a little bit about why, or if you know of other schools benefiting. And, is this something that interests you? I'd love to help you go about, getting one or more into your school. And then, they kind of give you permission, and then you send them a little bit of information. So the one thing I wanted to share with you is going back here to the share screen, was on our Tower Garden websites, there is information at the bottom about school gardens. So if that's something that interests you, this is to shop. Here's 5 reasons why you want a tower garden in your school. And then Stephen Ritz, who, if you show anybody a Stephen Ritz video, they'll be blown away right away. So there you go. This would be a great tool to send. Instead of just sending a teacher your Tower Garden website, sending them this link directly would be awesome. And then the Tower Talk community again, which we looked at earlier. There's information on there. That's where you find your lesson plans. So letting the teacher know that there's already some stuff available. There's not a ton. I know one of our local schools that just got one in, I think it was 2 weeks ago that I went to set it up. She had teachers fighting over it. So when she actually told the teachers, we're getting this in, they were arguing over, well, how many did you get? And she said, we just started with 1. And they all wanted them in their classroom. So hence the wheels are very important. So the kids can take turns, the classes, or maybe you could even have it. I know, Jen, I think you have one in the, right in front of the office. Is that correct? Thumbs up? Yeah. And then she's got one in her classroom, obviously, 'cause she did the work there. So here, under the Growing Young Minds, is your lesson plans. Side here, just minimize. So there you go, you've got some lesson plans. This Nicola's Garden is really awesome. It's this young kid who is really eager and excited to get young kids involved in gardening. And he talks about how he was a picky eater until his parents started a home garden. And he is very involved in the Tower Garden with kids. And then I know that there are grants. The last time I was on here, let me just have a peek because they changed it all. I believe it was under bear with me guys here. There was information on the grants actually right here. So this is where I was looking, and I can post it in a little bit if I can't find it. Okay, let me just try to see if I can find it right now. And if not, like I said, okay, I will link you up. I'll post a link on our Synergy website, and anybody who wants information on grants. I know there was a ton of information there. And again, anybody who has a Tower Garden or has been involved in getting one into the school is more than happy to share with you. We all want them in the schools, like Jen said. We just also know the time involved in doing so. But we're more than happy to help you out with that. So, let me just find it where I am here. Okay, there we go. And the other thing I wanted to share is it doesn't have to just be schools. I know there are seniors' homes that have Tower Gardens. I know of airports that have Tower Gardens, restaurants, universities and colleges besides just the little kids' schools. There are restaurants in St. Albert, which is close to where I live, in Edmonton. You know, anybody, you know, sort of like when you're sharing Juice Plus with people, the Tower Garden is something that if you've seen one or you have one, you know the value of. So it's just sort of getting that across to people. And as I showed you earlier with all of the different resources we have available, especially that newly updated website, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I think that would be my go-to for almost anything, as well as sharing your personal experience with the Tower Garden. So I'm going to just thank everybody for taking their time. I'm going to stop the recording in a minute here and open it up if anybody has questions before we tune out. I really appreciate Jennifer and Jason taking your time tonight to share your perspective as parents, as teachers, chef, what it's done for you and your families. And I hope that this has been beneficial in sharing. Again, feel free to ask myself or anybody questions. We're all here to help each other. I truly can tell you that this mission to inspire healthy living, you know, this one team, one mission is true. We're all here to help each other, whether we're benefiting or not. So I really appreciate you taking your time. I'm going to stop the recording and you can thank our hosts and feel free to